Okay, before we finish up our scenes, we're going to finish here after lesson 11. Lesson 12, we will start to talk about keyboard input, and that's where we start to get interactive with our games. Now, everything that we've learned up through lesson 11, we will apply to our games, but with starting to be interactive in lesson 12. That's where we'll kind of pick up the next project, and I will send that to you. Just want to go over a couple things here with lesson 11, show you an example of how Booleans work and what these are. They're basically conditionals. We know that a conditional will look for something to be true or false. If we remember back to the first unit, okay, those are our if-then statements. If then is looking. If is the conditional, looking for a condition to be present. Then is looking for something to be true, and then the else is if something is false. And we will continue to use these different conditionals throughout everything, and they're very, very useful in programming. Just real quick, and this is on your cheat sheet, the different operators that you will use. Okay, when we use two equal signs, it is saying, and again, these are dealing a lot of times with sprite properties, is equal to. So if I have a sprite, if sprite 1 and sprite 2, if sprite 1 is equal to sprite 2, then do this. Or if sprite x, and I can give it a property, that dot x, if sprite dot x equals this particular value, then you can go ahead and do something else. This is not equal to, is greater than, less than, greater than, or equal to, less than, or equal to. And what I plan to do over the next few lessons is show you some cool things that I've done with the code, show you how I do them. I would like to share with you my exact code. Understand that when I do share you exact code, I have sprites uploaded. So if you just copied and pasted the code, it wouldn't necessarily work on your machine unless you defined the sprites. So it would take just a few extra steps. So what I'm going to show you right now, you don't have on your computers, but here I've written some code here, and you can see all my different animations. I'm going to walk you through each line of code here, just so you can understand what's going on. Before I do that, I'm just going to play it for you. Okay, so a lot of different things going on the screen. We have a car, and we have a boat, and we have this finish line. Okay, that is, those are my beginning sprites. And then, if I run this a few times, okay, different things could happen. I'm waiting for the boat to win here. Okay, so there the boat won. Then I have the taco. I have the red kind of slash. That is also a sprite. Then you notice that properties change. Okay, so my finish line is a sprite, and you will you'll see that one in this lesson. I have a race car as a sprite. Okay, I have a car W, car 2, boat W, taco, taco 1, one titled green, one titled green 1. Okay, visibility is one of the properties that you can mess with, and when dealing with visibility, you can set it to be either true or false. So these are all different things that I want to be false. Okay, my taco 1 and 2 are tacos at different places. My green 1 and 2 is actually the red slash. And then my boat W stands for boat win, and my car W are for car win. So these are all different. These are all different sprites that are out there in my code, but right now my visibility for them is set to false. Okay, and you can see that I've set where I want them to be located up here as I define those sprite properties with their X and Y values. So as I go through my draw loop, okay, I always start with that background first because that's what's going to be drawn first. I have not set my frame rate, so this is going to be set to 30 frames per second. Okay, so here's my race. Okay, my car to X equals car to X minus a random number, which means it's going to change the speed. And since it's minus, it's going to move right to left. It's going to move across the screen towards the finish line. Same thing with my race car X. Both of them are set to a random number. So, throughout the rest of my code here, we'll see what happens if the car wins or if the race car wins. But this right here, this is my race. Okay? So what happens if my boat wins? Here I've got a comment here. Okay, when the boat wins. So here I am using my conditionals. If, and you can see we're defining our conditional here. If the car to X is less than the finish line. So I set my finish line X over here. Okay. You can see up here my finish line X is set at 40. So that means if the car gets to an X value of 39 before the boat, then all this stuff is going to be true. And I won't even get down to my race car X because my boat won. Okay, so car 2 is my boat. Okay. Race car is my car. Okay, so what happens when the boat wins? Okay, I want my race car X to go back to 200. Let me reset this to get the boat to win, hopefully. Okay, so here's the boat winning. So I want my race car X to be back to 200. Okay, my boat W. This is my boat wins. I've created a sprite for this right here. Okay, I'm changing its visibility to true. Okay, so it's now my car 2, it's off the screen. It's no longer in the picture. But I'm changing the visibility to boat W to true, and all these other things that are false, they remain false unless I identify them to be true. Taco. Here's my dabbing taco. I'm changing its visibility to be true. And then my green dot visible, okay, I am changing it to be true. And I moved my car, my race car that was in the race, I have moved it back, okay, right here by setting its X to 200. And now I'm changing its rotation. Okay, race car dot rotation equals race car dot rotation plus 20. Okay, if I did minus 20, then it would go the other way. So again, in my conditional, I am defining, the properties that I want, that I'm looking for. Okay, I'm looking for my X property. What about my X property? I'm looking for it to be less than the finish line X, and this can be anything. It can be a number. It could be another sprite. I mean, it could be anything. You can play around with it. That is in parentheses. And then very important, once we start with conditionals, we've got to pay attention to our brackets because we can have multiple conditionals. We can have if, then, else statements, if, else statements. We're going to have multiple conditionals. And as we move forward, looking at games and things like that will show you. But I have an open bracket, so here's what happens if it's true. If the car.x, again, the car2, that is my boat. Okay, if it's less than the finish line, then it won. So if that happens, then this is what I want to happen. So this is if everything is true. If the car.x is less than the finish line, then run all this stuff. And then I've got the same exact stuff for when my race car wins. So let's see if I can get the race car to win. Okay, so there the car wins. Okay, here I have a different taco. I've set this taco lower. Okay, I have my green one, that is my red slash. Okay, that is higher now. I've brought, when my race car wins, again, car 2 is my boat. I bring it back onto the screen, and then I change its rotation. Okay, all this other stuff, it's still considered false. It's not being shown on the screen right now. So everything is still there. Okay, so race car wins. All this stuff, I change the visibility to true. And then the last thing in my code, okay, is that draw sprites. And then, this closed bracket down here, that is closing my draw loop that I started up here. Okay, so as you go through these things, for example, if I get rid of this bracket right here, it's not going to run anything because my open brackets don't match my closed brackets. Okay, so I would have to make sure that I closed that off for it to run. Okay. If you have any questions, I encourage you to use the comment feature on Google Classroom. That way everyone in the class can see your questions. We can discuss back and forth. You are more than welcome and encouraged to have open discussions on there. But I encourage you to mess around with the different properties that you can change. As you start to animate your scenes, really think about what you want to happen in your scenes. If two stick figures are throwing a frisbee back and forth, okay, then for example, it might be if frisbee, you could have your frisbee moving across the screen. So x is frisbee x equals frisbee x minus 1, for example. So your frisbee would be moving across the screen. Then you could have a conditional. If your frisbee x reaches a certain point, then have it frisbee x equals frisbee x plus 1 to get it moving the other way. And you can set your different parameters with conditionals to have everything move back and forth. Okay. Again, if that doesn't make sense, put it in the comments, email me, whatever you want to do. So hopefully you learned something here, and I will see you in a bit on Zoom.